Hey everyone, welcome! Have you ever wondered how the United States, a country that began as a collection of colonies clinging to the eastern edge of a continent, became the global superpower we know today? It's a story of ambition, of conflict, and of an ever-evolving idea about what America means, not just to its own people, but to the world. Over the next few minutes, we're going to explore 7 pivotal events that helped shape the United States into the nation it is today. Get ready to explore, learn, and maybe even have your perspective shifted a bit because history, as we know, is never simple. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment on the Global Fact Trends channel for more insightful content. Fast forward to the 20th century, a century engulfed in 2 world wars and locked in the Cold War. From 1947 to 1991, the US and Soviet Union engaged in a global geopolitical chess match. It was a war of ideology, espionage, and technology. The space race and nuclear threat were the backdrop for a generation. The US emerged as a global powerhouse. Its anti-communist stance placed it at the forefront of the Western Bloc. The Cold War pushed US military and technological development, from nuclear weapons to the internet, all driven by competition with the Soviet Union. In 1991, the Soviet Union crumbled. The Cold War was over. The US stood alone as the world's sole superpower. Okay, before the Cold War chilled the world, there was a very hot war that engulfed the globe, World War II. From 1939 to 1945, the world witnessed a level of destruction and brutality never before seen. The United States, initially hesitant to get involved in another European conflict, was thrust onto the world stage after the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941. This wasn't just another war, it was a clash of ideologies, a fight against fascism and tyranny. And the United States, with its industrial might and unwavering spirit, played a pivotal role in the Allied victory. Remember those iconic images of American factories churning out tanks and planes? That was the arsenal of democracy in action, supplying not only its own troops, but also its allies. The US military, from the beaches of Normandy to the islands of the Pacific, fought with bravery and determination. And it was on American soil in Los Alamos, New Mexico, that the most fearsome weapon ever created, the atomic bomb, was developed, forever altering the course of human history. But World War II wasn't just about military victories. The US emerged from the war as a global leader, championing the creation of the United Nations, a forum for international cooperation aimed at preventing future conflicts. The post-war years saw the US taking on the mantle of leadership, promoting democracy and free trade, and shaping a new world order. So before the US was a superpower, it was a nation finding its footing on the world stage, and World War I, from 1914 to 1918, provided that opportunity. Initially, the US adopted a policy of neutrality, watching from afar as Europe tore itself apart. But the sinking of the Lusitania, a British ocean liner carrying American passengers, by a German U-boat, sparked outrage and shifted public opinion. In 1917, the US entered the war on the side of the Allies, tipping the balance in their favor. American troops, fresh and eager, helped turn the tide of the war, and their contributions, both in terms of manpower and resources, were crucial to the Allied victory. World War I marked a turning point for the US, signaling its emergence as a global power. The war effort showcased American industrial strength and military capability, and the post-war period saw the U.S. taking a more active role in international affairs. President Woodrow Wilson, a proponent of international cooperation, championed the League of Nations, an organization intended to prevent future wars. Though the U.S. ultimately didn't join the League, its involvement in the peace process demonstrated its growing influence on the world stage. Chapter 4, The Industrial Revolution, Forging a Powerhouse. But let's rewind a bit further to the late 19th century, a time of immense change and innovation, the Industrial Revolution. This wasn't just about new machines and factories. It was a fundamental shift in how goods were produced, how people lived, and how nations interacted. The US, with its vast natural resources and entrepreneurial spirit, embraced the Industrial Revolution wholeheartedly. Factories sprang up across the nation, churning out everything from steel to textiles. Railroads connected the country, facilitating trade and fostering economic growth. This period saw the rise of industrial giants like Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller, men whose names became synonymous with American industry and whose innovations transformed the nation into an economic powerhouse. But this rapid industrialization wasn't without its downsides. Cities swelled with workers seeking opportunities, often facing harsh living conditions and labor exploitation. The gap between the rich and poor widened, and social unrest grew. Yet, the Industrial Revolution fundamentally reshaped the U.S., laying the foundation for its economic dominance in the 20th century. Chapter 5. The Civil War, a nation forged anew. Before the United States could become a global superpower, it first had to confront its own internal divisions. The Civil War, from 1861 to 1865, was a brutal and bloody conflict that tested the very fabric of the nation. It was a war over slavery, states' rights, and the meaning of freedom itself. The nation was torn in two, brother fighting brother, and the outcome was far from certain. But in the end, the Union prevailed, preserving the nation and abolishing slavery, a stain on American democracy since its inception. The Civil War was a watershed moment in American history. It not only reshaped the nation politically and geographically, but also morally. The abolition of slavery, though a long and arduous process, set the stage for the struggle for civil rights that would continue for generations to come. The Civil War demonstrated the resilience of the American spirit, its willingness to fight for its ideals, even when those ideals were tested in the most brutal of ways. It was a war that, while devastating, ultimately strengthened the nation, forging it anew and paving the way for its eventual rise to global power. Chapter 6. The Louisiana Purchase Manifest Destiny takes shape. Imagine a time when the United States was just a sliver of its current size, confined to the eastern seaboard. Then, in 1803, President Thomas Jefferson made a deal that would double the size of the nation overnight, the Louisiana Purchase. For a mere $15 million, the U.S. acquired a vast territory from France, encompassing much of the land between the Mississippi River and the Rocky Mountains. This monumental acquisition opened up a world of possibilities for a young and ambitious nation. The Louisiana Purchase fueled westward expansion, a defining characteristic of 19th century America. Pioneers, settlers, and adventurers streamed westward, seeking new opportunities and driven by a belief in manifest destiny, the idea that the U.S. was destined to expand across the continent. This expansion wasn't without its consequences. It led to conflicts with Native American tribes, whose lands were encroached upon, and it intensified the debate over slavery as the nation grappled with how to incorporate new territories. Yet, the Louisiana Purchase undeniably shaped the destiny of the United States, providing the land and resources that would fuel its economic and territorial growth. Chapter 7. The Declaration of Independence, a Foundation of Freedom. But every story has a beginning, and for the United States, that beginning can be traced back to a single document signed in Philadelphia in 1776, the Declaration of Independence. This wasn't just a list of grievances against British rule. It was a bold proclamation of a new nation, founded on the principles of liberty and equality. The Declaration, penned by Thomas Jefferson, articulated a radical idea for its time, that all men are created equal and endowed with certain unalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These words, etched in ink and etched in history, resonated far beyond the shores of the American colonies. They inspired revolutions and movements for freedom around the world, becoming a beacon of hope for those yearning for self-determination. The Declaration of Independence wasn't just the birth certificate of a nation. It was a blueprint for a new kind of government, one based on the consent of the governed, where power resided not in a king but in the people. It was a bold experiment in democracy, fraught with challenges and contradictions, but one that ultimately laid the foundation for the United States to become a global champion of freedom and human rights. Outro: a legacy of superpower. From a fledgling nation declaring its independence to a global superpower shaping the world stage, the United States has traversed a path marked by pivotal events that have shaped its identity and its role in the world. Each event, from the Louisiana Purchase to the Cold War, reflects the resilience, ambition, and complexities of the American spirit. As we've explored these key moments, it becomes clear that the story of the United States is not just about its rise to power, but about the ongoing evolution of its ideals and its place in a constantly changing world. If you found this exploration enlightening, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment on the Global Fact Trends channel. Your support helps us continue to share the stories that shape our understanding of history.